can get you over in this direction, it'd be easier to see. Thanks. Good evening. My name is Trina Vargo, and I'm the president of the USIrelandAlliance, and I'd like to welcome all of you here to Google headquarters to welcome the 2014 class of George J. Mitchell Scholars. And we are especially honored to have with us tonight the man himself, for whom the scholarship is named, Senator George Mitchell. I would like to thank Google, in particular John Herlihy and Lorraine Toole, who helped arrange this, and Karen Grinner, who's been doing all of the work behind the scenes to help me make this evening possible. I'd also like to welcome the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Oisin Quinn, members of the Oireachtas, I think maybe the USDCM John Hennessy Nyland may be here, a few university presidents, USIrelandAlliance board members, and the many friends of the program. And we're extremely grateful for all you do to help make this program a success. I also want to mention two companies that are here this evening who came to us via an Irishman named Felmy Green, who can't be here this evening. I think maybe he's in Singapore. But it just gives you a sense of some of the things companies in this country are doing in general and how they've been helpful to the Mitchell. Fergal and Mike and O'Byrne are here from Sonru. And Sonru is this great Irish company that, to explain it from the Mitchell perspective, every year when people fill out their applications, we get 300 applications every year for Mitchell Scholars, and it's all on paper. It's quite extensive. It's like 20 pages of an application. And the moment now, this just started last year, Sonru offered it up to us. The moment they finish their application and the word comes back to them that they've been successful in applying on paper, they are directed to go into this video online at their computer in their university, wherever they are. The Mitchell Scholars who are here this year did it. They were the guinea pigs last year. And you basically have 48 hours, and you click on your computer when you're ready, and you'll get 3 questions. We're randomizing them this year, so that they get different questions. And it could be something as simple as, what book impacted you. And they then just answer into their own camera in their own time, in their own space. And that all downloads into our system. So when people who are reviewing all these applicants not only have the paper, but see an interview with them. And obviously this is hugely successful in terms of commercial venture, and the likes of Apple and probably Google are using it around the world to be able to interview people when you're in different time zones. And so we thank Sonru for that. It's made a big difference in our application process. Everybody who participated last year said, please do it again. And I think most universities might want to try it as well. I also want to thank Brett Myers and Tim Porter, who I think are here from Currency Fair. And I just want to say that if you have an entity that has to move money around at all, they have made our life so simple. As you can imagine, just trying to get the Mitchell Scholars their stipends, there's often difficulty in different banks and different currencies. They're shaking their heads, they know. We created these Currency Fair accounts for them. We just put their stipends in there, and they take them out on their end in their own time. So it's another one of those companies that came to us and said, we'd like to participate in the Mitchell Scholarship Program in some way. And it's just been a godsend for us in terms of making life easy for everyone. I also want to thank a few people who don't often and aren't always thanked because they're always in the background here. But I want to thank Patrick Bolger, who's been taking all of our photos at these events for the last number of years. And he's so good, you never even know that he's here or see him. And I forget that he's here until I get the pictures after the fact. And also, speaking of photography, I want to welcome John Minahan, who many of the Irish may know is a legendary Irish photographer. He's best known for the photos he's taken of Samuel Beckett and many others. And he shot at our Hollywood event this year. And we had such a great time, and he kindly said he'd come along again tonight for the crack and to take some pictures here. So we're delighted, and we appreciate your coming along. And finally, I want to thank Joanne McGrath, who's here, or McGrath if you're American maybe. Joanne has done all the video for all of our events for the last 10 and 12 years. And you know what that's like when you work with people that you just don't, you don't even have to talk to each other. Everybody knows what everybody wants, and it just happens seamlessly. And she's great at what she does, and I want to thank Joanne. Senator Mitchell's going to make some remarks, and then I'm going to introduce to you this class of Mitchell Scholars. I don't think there's a person on this island who doesn't know who Senator Mitchell is. And he seems to be able to fix just about every problem. So I wouldn't be surprised if the FAI are going to maybe interview him this week, and maybe he'll have a manager's job pretty soon. You all know what he did to bring peace to Northern Ireland, which is what prompted me about 15 years ago to ask him if we could name this scholarship in his honor. And I was thrilled when he gave us permission for us to do so, because there could be no better role model for these future American leaders. He exemplifies the character and commitment that they all should aspire to. In addition to his day job, he flew in yesterday. He's flying out tomorrow morning. He is constantly busy. He's acting as the independent monitor, I think some of you know, for Penn State University, which they have to adopt these reforms in the wake of the Jerry Sandusky scandal. He's also mediating a labor dispute at the Minnesota Orchestra. I think it's okay to say he was on a phone call as a Red Sox owner last night. After we had dinner with Jim Sheridan, he had to run to deal with the Red Sox. And if that weren't enough, he's been fictionalized by Colin McCann. And he's working very closely with me as we try to raise an endowment so that this program can go on forever. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to introduce to you Senator George Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Trina, for that very generous introduction. Thank all of you, ladies and gentlemen, for your presence. Especially thanks to John Hurley, John back here, and all of his team at Google for hosting us in this really lovely place. I've seen Dublin many, many times in my life, but never from this angle. And I must say it's really a great treat. I'm thankful to Trina for all of the work she's done. I speak so often, I've heard myself talk so much, that for me the introduction is the highlight of the evening. And I have to say, Trina's getting better, although this business about a guy who needs no introduction may be okay for you, but the speaker doesn't care for that too much. There is, of course, a great danger in these introductions, which I experienced after I returned to the United States from my service in Northern Ireland, where I was off and on for about 5 years. And when I returned to the United States, I wrote a book about my experience there. When it was published, I set out across the United States in a book promotion tour. I received many introductions, and I was surprised to receive such a large number from different Irish-American organizations. And I learned in the process that in the United States, there are more Irish-American organizations than there are Irish-Americans. And I accepted a lot of their invitations, and as I traveled around the country, there developed an informal competition among the introducers as to who could give the longest, most exaggerated, often truly ridiculous introductions. I reacted very badly. Instead of expressing some degree of humility and asking them to keep it short, I encouraged them. I sent notes to the introducers. I berated those who left out something I did in high school. And when I got to the final stop, after a 2-week tour, which was the Irish-American Club of Stamford, Connecticut, I was so impressed with myself that I could just barely squeeze my head inside the front door. When I did, the first person I encountered was an elderly woman who rushed up to me, very excited and nervous, shook my hand vigorously, almost knocked me over, said, "I'm so thrilled to meet you." She said, "I don't live anywhere near Stamford, but when I heard you were coming, I drove 3.5 hours just to come here to tell you how great I think you are for all of your accomplishments, to ask you, please, will you sign my poster?" And with that, she handed me a poster and a pen. I looked at it. I said, "I'm happy to sign your poster, but before I do, I think there's something I should tell you." She said, "What is it?" I said, "I'm not Henry Kissinger." It's a big portrait of Henry Kissinger. She said, "You're not?" She said, "Well, who are you anyway?" And when I told her, she was obviously disappointed. She said, "That's just terrible." I said, "I drove 3 hours to meet Henry Kissinger, and all I've got is a nobody like you." I said, "Well, I'm sorry you feel so bad." I said, "I wish there was something I could do to ease your pain." Thought for a few moments. She said, "Well, there is." I said, "What is it?" And then she leaned forward, sort of conspiratorially. Literally, our foreheads were touching. And she said, "Nobody will ever know the difference. He said, would you mind signing Henry Kissinger's name to my book? So I signed his name, and I've never since complained about an introduction. Thank you. That was very nice. I'm really delighted to be here to welcome you and this, what is our 14th class of scholars under our scholarship program. I'm here to express to each of those scholars my congratulations, my best wishes. I want to thank, as I said, Google, and I know there are a number of many distinguished people here. I can't name them all, but I wanted to express my personal gratitude to the Lord Mayor for coming. I truly appreciate it. This is my Quinn day. I had breakfast with Rory, and now I'm having an evening reception with the Mayor. Brian McRaith is the president of the Dublin City University. Brian, thank you for coming. And Senator Sean Barrett is here. Liz O'Donnell, who used to be a minister, who spent many, then it seemed, long and painful hours in Northern Ireland working on the process there. Liz was a truly great contributor. And I do have to mention, because it is Northern Ireland, and after I completed my work there, I had the great honor of serving as the Chancellor of Queen's University of Belfast for about 10 years. And here this evening is James McElhinney, who is currently the acting Vice Chancellor. James, where are you? We always have to give recognition. There he is, right here. On the wrong side of the camera, I might say. But thank you all for being here. Google and the USIrelandAlliance already have a good and growing relationship, and in fact, 4 of our former scholars now work for Google in California and in New York. We hope, John, they're doing a good job, and that there'll be many more to come in the future. I want to say a few words tonight about this program, why I think it's important, and how together we all can help to ensure its future. In what is a relatively short period of time, the program has become prominent, popular, and successful in the United States. Although there are only 12 scholarships each year, we receive over 300 applicants. And last November, for example, this current group of scholars, 4 received invitations from this scholarship and from the much older and prestigious Rhodes Scholarship, and I'm pleased to say all 4 took ours. That means a lot of work and effort, and I congratulate Tina, our board, and our many supporters of the program. Those of you, and there are many here who have supported us, we're very grateful to you. To do this, to create something really from scratch, to take it to this level in just a decade with very limited resources, is a tribute to Trina and to those who work with her. Why and how did that happen? Well, you can begin by asking the scholars here themselves. You'll be talking with them, some of you already have, and I expect they'll say to you what we have found in our discussions with each scholar who has preceded them. First, the class size is very small, 12 each year. That's attractive to scholars. They get to know each other very well. The Alliance is very active in staying engaged with each of them, keeping them connected to one another. And although at first blush, 12 doesn't sound like many, when you consider the relative populations of England and this island, proportionally there are in fact more Mitchell scholars in Ireland than there are Rhodes scholars in all. The institutions of higher learning on this island, several of whom are represented here tonight, have been from the outset great partners for us and very welcoming to the scholars, and the scholars feel that welcome. It's warm, it's been island-wide, and it's accompanied by many opportunities that the scholars receive here on this island. Many people, including some of you here tonight, that gracious enough to host them in your homes for dinner, taking them to sporting and cultural events, giving them internships, making them feel part of this great country. And all of these things add up to a memorable, often a life-changing experience in terms of substance, prestige, and popularity, and in the Alliance's ability to attract what we think are the best and the brightest of young Americans. This program has been a success. We're fortunate that we've been able to attract well-rounded young men and women who take into consideration all the aspects of the scholarship and also who have given thought to their futures, not just in this program, but in the societies in which they live. One factor that they think about, of course, as all of us would in their shoes, is the rankings of universities. So rankings are important, and we hope that the current rankings here will improve to help us to continue to attract the best scholars. The largest concern that looms for us, and none of you will be surprised at this, is funding. If this program is to continue and become permanent, endure, and continue to contribute to build a good relationship between the United States and Ireland and beyond, we need to solidify the program financially. Who benefits from these scholarships? Well, obviously the individuals themselves. Secondly, we have also heard from many university officials here on this island the values that our scholars bring to the classroom. In 1997, when describing his teaching stint at Harvard, Seamus Heaney said of the students he was then teaching at Harvard, and I quote, "When I came here first, I was very aware of their eagerness to be in contact with the professor. At home in Ireland, there's a habit of avoidance, an ironical attitude toward the authority figure. Here, there's a readiness to approach and a desire to take advantage of everything the professor has to offer. That unnerved me a bit at first, but I've come to respect it. These students come to college with positive belief in their abilities, whatever they are." Others here have told us that our scholars' willingness to speak up often draws out some of their fellow students from here. And so we think it's important, not just here and in America. It's critical, I believe, that future leaders, future American leaders, have experiences in the world and build relationships with future leaders in other countries, doing so here as well as at home. But the program really, I think, is more important to this island than anywhere else. So we hope to have support from here and that it will grow and be sustainable. Many of you may not be aware, but for at least the past decade, no Irish government money has been spent on this program. None has been spent. The vast majority of funds to sustain the program has come from the United States government, with the Northern Ireland government contributing about 1/6 of the budget each year, for which we're very grateful. But the Irish government has made a most significant commitment, and it is to match whatever is raised for an endowment for the program. The Irish government will match euro for euro, up to a total of 20 million, any money that we can raise to create an endowment for this program. That, of course, is good only insofar as there are others, foundations, corporations, or individuals who are willing to provide the initial contribution. Prior to the unfortunate economic downturn in 2008, we did have a small number of wealthy Irish individuals who were doing so, who helped us to get started. They're no longer in a position to do so. As many of you know, for the last 2 years, the State Department has announced its intention to eliminate funding for this program. The reasons they've given should be of concern here and across Europe. The State Department has told us and said to others that their focus is to shift away from Europe to other parts of the world primarily to Asia. Fact is, of course, that U.S. policymakers are not fixated just on this island. While there is still much to do in Northern Ireland, most of that work that needs to be done must come and should come from the people there and from their elected officials. Most Americans do not see Ireland as a poor country in need of assistance. And as you all know, and several of you have confirmed to me tonight, that while there continues to be substantial outmigration from Ireland, much of it now goes to Australia and to Canada, and at least in relative proportions, not as much to the United States as in past. The nature of the U.S.-Ireland relationship, therefore, is changing, inevitably, as are all human relationships. And we think that the changes should be recognized and addressed. That's what the USIrelandAlliance and this scholarship program are doing. The U.S. is an important market, a place where Irish companies can sell their goods and individuals can sell their services and their talents. The U.S. also is a place from which many of you who are engaged in business may wish to attract corporate citizens, and a place from which to attract paying American students at your universities with much needed revenue there. That's something that universities across this island have told us, that the fact that our scholars are studying here, return home to talk about it, where they do get a lot of publicity, and encourages other Americans to look at the universities here, to encourage them to come here and study. Our scholars and our staff are, in a real sense, ambassadors for Ireland in the U.S. In terms of self-interest, Irish businesses should recognize that this program and programs like it, we're not alone in this, of course, provide not only the next generation of leadership for this relationship, but hopefully provide future employees, future leaders in business, in politics, in the arts, in Ireland, the U.S., and elsewhere. I know that Trina has talked often about the underlying question that the Alliance raised really 15 years ago when it was created. Is there a critical mass of people on both sides of the Atlantic who care enough about a future modern relationship between the United States and the island of Ireland, and who are willing to do something about it to ensure a strong historical relationship has a strong, broader, and better future? We hope that you'll join us and make it a reality. Thank you very much for your presence here this evening, for your kind and warm hospitality, to which I've become very much accustomed on my many visits back here, and for whatever you can do to help us help others, especially these terrific young people, all of whom you'll get to meet in just a moment. Thank you very much.
Those of you who come to these events often know this is the part of the evening where we all feel incredibly inadequate as we introduce to you the Mitchell Scholars. I'm going to ask them to maybe come forward as I call their names, and you can, if you would, hold applause till all of them are up here. As the Senator mentioned, it was another extremely competitive year, and these 12 individuals were selected from 300 applicants, and we're delighted that they chose the Mitchell. First off, alphabetical order, Warda Athar was born in Pakistan, spent her early years in Oman and Saudi Arabia, then grew up in Texas before returning with her family to Saudi Arabia. She graduated from Georgetown University with a degree in neurobiology. Her research interest is in the development of the cerebral cortex and neuropsychiatric diseases. She will study bioengineering at Trinity, and she's my personal advisor on fish oil supplements. Mark Brennan graduated from Johns Hopkins University with a degree in applied mathematics and statistics. He researched greenhouse gas metrics, presented his findings to the Department of State, and then interned in State's Office of Environmental Policy. His goal is to combine mathematical analysis with policy application. He will study mathematical modeling at the University of Limerick. Flannery Cunningham graduated from Princeton with a degree in music. She enjoys Sean-Nós, mouth music, and fiddle tunes. She primarily writes for choirs, solo or duet singers, and small instrumental and mixed chamber ensembles. Her first oratorio, The Navigator, explored the travels of St. Brendan. She also wrote a libretto and score of an opera. She will study music composition at University College Cork. Emily Fritzie graduated from the University of Arizona with a degree in political science. She recently served as a special assistant to the Undersecretary of Energy. She was student body president at the University of Arizona, and in the aftermath of the 2011 shooting of Representative Gabby Giffords, the congressman for whom she once interned, she spoke on the same program as President Obama to address a crowded arena and the nation. She will study higher education at Dublin Institute of Technology. Sarah Johnson graduated from the University of Alabama with a degree in mechanical engineering. Her research involves improving the performance of biofuels. As an intern at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, she performed structural design analysis for external instrumentation mounts on aircraft. She will study advanced mechanical engineering at Queen's University, Belfast. Lucas Mason Brown is a graduate of Brown University with a degree in mathematics, logic, and philosophy of science. He's a cryptographer who received national attention when he deciphered, in just 2 weeks, a handwritten code that had eluded scholars for centuries. He's co-written a book about his findings, which will be published next year. He will study mathematics at Trinity, even if Google tries to hire him tonight. Stay away from him, John, for about a year. Harry McNamara is a graduate of Yale and obtained an MPhil in micro and nanotechnology enterprise at Cambridge. His passion for physics and his moral philosophy has led him to a career in the emerging field of nanoneuronics. He has worked with a company developing a medical device that aims to transform medical imaging, and as a researcher on meteors at Los Alamos National Laboratory. He also will study bioengineering at Trinity. Paul Moynister graduated from Washington University in St. Louis with a degree in political science and environmental studies. He recently served as a senior legislative assistant to Congressman Steve Cohen, a Democrat of Tennessee. He has worked as an environmental policy analyst for the Department of Transportation and also in Missouri state politics. He's continuing a resource education project concerning fly fishing here in Ireland that is sponsored by Patagonia and Orvis, so he'd be anxious to talk to anybody about who knows where the good fly fishing spots are. And he will study environmental resource management at UCD. Jonathan Poole graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy with a degree in applied mathematics. He was a member of the Navy's Division I cycling team. He served as brigade commander of 4,400 midshipmen, the Academy's highest student leadership position. His goal is to command a carrier battle group, then return to Maine to enter politics. He will study international public policy and diplomacy at University College Cork. Marion Royston graduated from Auburn University with a degree in history. She grew up in Roanoke, Alabama. Like many towns in rural America, Roanoke is suffering the adverse effects of a post-industrial economy. Marion has been an after-school tutor and a mentor to middle and high school students in Macon County, Alabama, which is has one of the highest child poverty rates in the state. She wants to work on rural policy issues and will study leadership for sustainable rural development at Queens. Robin Tipps is a member of the Quapaw tribe in Oklahoma. He graduated from the University of Oklahoma with a degree in sociology, criminology. His goal is to be a tribal attorney, and he hopes to one day be chairman of his tribe. The son of a Quapaw mother and a Caucasian father, Robin has thought a great deal about Native American identity and is interested in identity issues. He will study public law at NUI Galway. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2014 class of George J. Mitchell Scholars.
Well, Jonathan, I'm glad you weren't running when I was running in Maine. I don't think I could have won against this array. So I just want to say how terrific they are and they are representative of a much larger group. In some respects, I extolled the small size of the program. We wish it were possible to expose you to more of these great young men and women who I think will make an enormous contribution to both of our societies in the future. That's the end. I want to tell one more story. Sure. It's been a very rather serious evening, so I started with one story. Let me tell one another. You really have made us all feel at home, in a sense, taken us in, and we're all grateful for that. And it reminds me of a story of Henry Ford, who, of course, was of Irish heritage, who became very famous and very wealthy. And he returned to Ireland on a visit after he had become famous and wealthy, and went back to his small hometown in the south of Ireland. And the local councilman came to visit him and welcomed him and told him how pleased they were that he was there, and told him that they had planned to build a library for years, but they were unable to raise the money. They asked if he would be willing to make a contribution toward it back in his hometown, and he said, well, of course. And he agreed immediately to make a contribution of 5,000 Irish pounds, which was a big sum of money at the time. So they went out delighted, and the next day the local paper had a headline which said, Henry Ford pledges 50,000 pounds for the construction of a new library and other activities. And Ford got in touch with the councilman. They came back to visit, and they said, Mr. Ford, we're awful sorry. And a slight error. If you would like, we'll be happy to put out a statement that the article was incorrect, that you haven't pledged 50,000. Instead, you pledged $5,000. He said, well, no, that's all right. He said, I'll only ask one thing. He said, what's that? He said, I'd like to be able to designate the saying over the entrance to the library. They said, well, yes, of course, we're happy to do it. So they built the library, and the people who went to look up and read the saying by Henry Ford, which was, I came to visit and you took me in. We hope you'll take us in every way that you can. Thank you all very much, and thanks to these scholars. Is that the end of the program? That's the end of the program?